I'm Brian V, and this is Why We Work. Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with Nelson Tressler. Nelson is the founder and CEO of IGOTSMARTER. He is the author of Unlucky Sperm Count. And today, I want to find out from Nelson how we can make better choices so we're not living in our circumstances. Join me today in my conversation with Nelson Tressler. I'm Brian V, and this is Why We Work. Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with Nelson Tressler. Good day, fine sir.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Brian.
No, Nelson, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your time. And I would like to know, knowing that you've been in several different businesses, what industry are you in now? And can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so we just started an app and a program called I Got Smarter, which is a goal fulfillment program that is associated with an app that gives people all the tools, the knowledge, and especially the support to finally achieve their life's biggest goals.
And in what industry would this be in particular?
Uh, Probably it's a self-help and goal fulfillment. I don't know if there's kind of that perfect slot for it, but what the app does is it gives them a program for people to achieve any goal in their lives in all of their, categories, from health to wealth to business to spirituality to lifestyle, any goal. It's that program that again gives them all the tools that they need to finally achieve that. And that was one of the things that we really realized, were there were so many people out there that were just a few choices away from living that life that they wanted to live. And the I Got Smarter program and app gives them those tools, knowledge, and support to finally do that.
Nelson, knowing the number of businesses that you've been in and successful ones at that, how did you come to be who you are in the sense of what would have been your very first job? Maybe you were a teenager selling lemonade or delivering papers.
My first job was when I was 9 years old, and I
Nice.
worked on the back of my uncle's garbage truck, and did that all the way up through high school until I got my driver's license, and then went and worked construction. I had a kind of a stint during the school year on the weekends. I worked for a caterer. Um, and yeah, I sold stuff door to door when I was a kid. I worked at a junkyard on some weekends for a guy who had a junkyard down the street. So yeah, I had quite a few jobs growing up.
Nine. I think, Nelson, you're the youngest so far to have started work. A little bit like 10. I get a few for 10 and 12, but nine is especially, I mean, you're not a man who's afraid to get your hands dirty.
No, yeah, the garbage truck was in our family, and I was always willing to go and enjoyed doing that. And that's still to this day was one of the most enjoyable jobs, probably because I was a kid and got to ride on the back of the truck, and felt like I was grown up. And my family needed the money at that time, so it
Well,
was
yeah,
a
what was your
way to go.
motivation? I mean, at 9 to say, "I'm gonna go out and work and get some money." What was the motivating factor? Was it family? Was it yourself?
Well, I got quite the origin story. You want me to get into that and kind of go down that road
Yeah,
a little bit?
I think it's a story that gives you the authority to and even the inspiration for people to listen to and understand where you're coming from, the perspective that you have on life.
Yeah. So, my mom got pregnant with me when she was 15 years old. And while she was pregnant with me, her father, who was the local trash collector in the town, drove into the town square. There, he spotted two police officers. He stuck a gun out the window and opened fire on those police officers, killing one and critically wounding another. And my grandfather was eventually captured and brought to stand trial, where he was facing the death penalty. And during my grandfather's trial, my mom uh, got up and testified that the reason that her father had shot and killed that police officer was that that police officer had raped her, and she was now pregnant with me. And my mom's testimony worked. My grandfather's first trial ended in a hung jury. Eventually, he was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And leaving behind me my mom. My mom was one of 15 children, in this small little town, to deal with the circumstances that he did. So that's kind of where my life started. My mom, I'm eventually born to a 15-year-old mother in a small town. Everything that has to do with the circumstances surrounding my birth. My mom ends up meeting a man who becomes my stepfather. Come to find out, he's an alcoholic, very physically and emotionally abusive to me and my mom. Eventually, they have 4 children in quick succession. And because of the lifestyle that they're living, a lot of the basic needs of my siblings fall upon me as the oldest, from diaper changing to bottle feeding to waking up at 2 a.m. to, put crying babies back to sleep. It had a huge effect on me in the 4th grade. I flunked the 4th grade with straight F's. I couldn't read, couldn't write, couldn't spell. Ended up getting placed into special ed where I had dyslexia. And eventually, one day, my stepfather was walking home drunk from a bar. Somebody else was driving home drunk from that bar and ended up hitting and killing him. And it was at this time that my mom, here she is, she's lived a tough life up to this point. She has 5 small children. She's never worked outside of the home. She's dropped out of school in the 8th grade. And losing my stepfather, as bad as he was to us, pretty much left my mom with no hope and really no vision of how she was ever going to care for, 5 small children. And it was at this time that she decided that she was going to go ahead and take her own life. And she attempted suicide. And fortunately, she wasn't successful. But when she did get out of the hospital after attempting suicide, she determined that she wasn't going to be able to care for all 5 of us. And that's when my family got split up. And then I went to go live with my grandmother, who was the wife of the man who shot and killed the police officer. And that took me up to about age 10 or 11.
That that gives some of the motivation for you to work so hard.
Yeah.
At what age did you, I mean, find out about your grandfather and the police officer? At what age did that story come to your mind?
Well, I mean, I always remember that story. And in my book, The Unlucky Sperm Club, there's a lot of twists and turns with that story. And, I don't want to get into them now because it's part of the book and part of the suspense in there. But yeah, there's a lot of twists and turns in there. But no, I mean, I was always aware of that. I mean, I was always that kid in this small town. I mean, if you've ever lived in a small town, people are always up in your business and they know all of your business. And so, I mean, I was always that and had to deal with that and, what my family's last name represented and who me and my mom represented. So that was constant.
Did you ever meet the police officer?
No, so the police officer was killed
Oh,
before I was born.
he was the one that was killed, not the wounded one. So
Yeah.
that was the part of the story that I didn't quite get because you said he went to jail. So your
No,
grandfather
my grandfather went to
went to
jail.
jail. I
So
thought you were saying that the wounded police officer was the one who was eventually.
no,
And how about your grandfather? How many years did he serve? Or
more than 40 years, and he ended up dying in prison.
what a horrific story. And knowing your story and then starting to see this motivation in you to work and help, I mean, one at a necessity, right? Helping raise your brothers and sisters, but also a desire to maybe improve or to, I heard one guy say that when we have difficulty like this, usually our whys of why we do something, especially initially, is to escape, right? To
Yeah.
just to run, to get out of this situation.
Well,
And
well,
then go ahead.
and I did that. I mean, when I went to go live with my grandmother, for the first time in my life, I didn't have to worry about, caring for my siblings. I didn't have to worry about my stepdad coming home and beating me or my mom. And I started to reflect upon what direction my life was going. And one day a counselor came and talked about what it was going to take to get into college. And that's when I kind of thought, you know what if I graduated college, man, my life would be set from here on out. And, I remember thinking to myself, Nelson, you can't read, you can't write, you can't spell. You're in special ed. Of my mom's 15 brothers and sisters, only two had ever graduated high school. None had ever gone to college. But I saw what direction I was going, and I started to do the things that I thought would get me into college. And eventually, 12 years after that, four different universities after that, and 4 years in the Air Force, I became that first person to graduate from college. But what I was able to do was join the Air Force, which got me out of that town, and which got me, for the first time in my life, I wasn't, when I said my last name, it wasn't, people asking questions about, what my grandfather had done, and, what I represented. And for the first time, I felt like I could do anything or be anybody that I wanted to be. And it was very liberating to get out of there and escape, everything that represented.
So the military gave you an out to start pursuing what you felt would be beneficial for you. So how did you start to get over the idea of what was in your past for the betterment of your future? And what were you starting to think as you said the number of degrees that you have? What made you decide in those fields?
Well, I mean, the one thing was, is as soon as I graduated from college, I realized, how powerful goals can be. And I set a goal to graduate, to become that first person in my family to graduate from college. But after I was able to do that, I became obsessed with goals and personal development, and saw the power in them. And I wanted to become a better version of myself. And I started to go to every seminar I could afford to go to, and I started to listen to all the books that I could get, and subscribe to the magazines. And I used goal programs every year. And what I eventually was able to do was design a life that I couldn't have even imagined. And I use goals and personal development in every area of my life. And 20 years after graduating from college, I went into commercial real estate right out of school. I was able to become the number one salesperson worldwide for a top 5 commercial real estate firm several times in the retail division. I was able to start more than 10 businesses, including one of the largest privately owned pet resorts in the country. And I was able to write a book. And now I've started I Got Smarter to help other people use goals and personal development in their lives, and teach them how to design the life that they want to live. So goals are so powerful, and I truly believe that you can accomplish any goal so long as you have enough time, enough energy, and enough focus to do it.
At what age are you suggesting people start developing their goals, and what would they look like at that age?
Well, I mean, I was in 7th grade when I set that goal to become the first person to graduate college. As young as possible. I mean, everybody should have a goal, whether you're young and you want to be the starting quarterback on your, Pee Wee football team, or, you know, play shortstop on your little league team. Goals, nothing happens until somebody sets a goal and then starts to work towards it. And the sooner that you can teach somebody the power of goals, and the power and the opportunity to become a better version of yourself, to always be working on yourself, because all goals start with the type of person that you are. In order to accomplish a goal, you have to become that person who can accomplish that goal. So goals really come down to becoming a better version of yourself, no matter what that goal is. So as soon as you can learn those skills and those strategies, I mean, I've tried to teach them to my kids as early as possible, because what a huge head start it is to understand the power of goals and personal development at an early age.
For personal development, what aspects of your life is that touching? Obviously, it would be all of it, but what are those specific areas?
Yeah, I mean, your health, your wealth, your business, your relationships, it really is everything. And what personal development comes down to is striving to become that best version of yourself. And that's the magic is once you see what potential lies within you, you'll never be the same. And I think that was one of the things whenever I graduated from college and I actually saw some potential that lied within me that I couldn't see 5 or 7 years earlier. Once I saw that and understood that, man, there's greatness in me. And now all I have to do is really take that action and be determined to release that potential. It's a lot like you see a big chunk of wood, and that big chunk of wood on the forest floor is just setting there, and that chunk of wood could has all this potential, but that potential essentially will rot into the forest floor if nobody does anything with it. But if somebody picks up that log and they bring it home, they can put it in the fire, and now all of a sudden it's heat or it's light, or maybe it's you can build something out of it, or maybe a log sculptor creates something beautiful in it. All that potential was in that log, but until somebody grabbed that log and started to work at it, it all went for naught. And that's the way we all are. We all have this magnificent potential within each one of us, but we have to work in order to let that potential come out.
And so we have bookends on this. So as young as possible.
Absolutely.
Do you suggest as well? I was speaking to someone yesterday at an interview with someone who was retired, and he's enjoying life, but I think he would be the first to admit that there's not that many goals set before him. So do you have another side to that as well for people who are getting older?
Yeah, I mean, success is not an event, it's a journey. And becoming that best version of yourself really should never end. I believe in always being active and always being pursuing that better version of yourself. And you know what? It might not be that you want to climb to the top of the mountain of business anymore once you get older, but maybe it's to continue being healthy and having enough energy to keep up with the grandkids or the great grandkids, or starting a foundation to give back at the end of your age, or whatever your goals are and whatever your values are. I mean, goals should never really go away. I mean, my goal is I want to be 130 years old, laying on my deathbed, surrounded by 5 or 6 generations of people that look down at me and have nothing but admiration for me. I mean, it should never end. We should always be striving to become that better version of ourselves and always have goals. And I think that's what keeps a lot of people young. I mean, there's those studies out there that most people, end up dying 5 or 7 years after they retire. And I think a lot of that has to do with they stop moving, they stop having that those goals to shoot after and a purpose in their lives. And I think to stay young, you keep those purpose. They're absolutely going to change. Your goals will change and your vision will change, but you should always have goals and always be striving for them, no matter how old you are.
There's many people out there, Nelson, that will use their circumstances as an excuse. And so I see for you, you lacked maybe some motivating powers from the family, some encouragement and all that. One, I mean, with your counselor, that kind of gave you an idea, the student counselor that suggested going to college. But I think it's great what you're doing because you're a voice for some of those people who don't have family influences at home to encourage them. Where did your influence come from initially? And do you see that your voice is an influence for those people, even people in their 20s and 30s, to encourage them, to motivate them to set their goals and personal development ideals?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, when I moved in with my gram, I had a special bond with my gram. I lived there my first few years of life because my mom was 15 years old. But my grandma almost told me every single day, Nelson, you're going to make something of yourself. And she told me that so often and believed it so wholeheartedly. And I loved her so much that I think that was a lot of my motivation to do something with my life to prove her right. So I think it all started there. I was also fortunate enough to be in the Big Brother, Big Sister program, and I got a great big brother and his wife who, showed me some contrast on how other people live their lives. And I think contrast is a very important thing to people because, when I was kind of stuck in there with the family, with my family, I didn't know that life was any different. And I got some of that contrast and realized that it was something different that I wanted. So there were those things. Good friends. I mean, Jim Rohn has that quote, show me your 5 closest friends and you're the average of them. And so I think, definitely being around good people. But yeah, I think I had, success is never a one-man show. I mean, there's always people who help you and motivate you and inspire you. And I definitely had a lot of those people, coming up through my career.
And I think that you're an inspiration as well, because understanding people are in various circumstances. Even your book, Unlucky Sperm Count, the subtext is you are not a victim of your circumstances, but a product of your choices.
Yeah. And I wholeheartedly believe that. I mean, one of the philosophies that we have at I Got Smarter is that we take 100% responsibility for our own success. And the reason that we do that is there are people out there that want to blame their circumstances on other people, things happening in the world, what have you. But as soon as you start blaming, you give away the power to change something. But if you take 100% responsibility for your own success, now you're in control to change that. And that's what my book is. I mean, my book, The Unlucky Sperm Club, I really pull back the curtain because you have a lot of people who see somebody who's maybe had some success in their lives, and they either think that that happened overnight or they think that it was an easy ride, and that is almost never never what happens. And I really pulled back the curtain, all the way from me and my wife struggling and being separated, and then almost losing everything in 2008 during the recession, and just showing that as long as you're willing to keep going and keep fighting for what you want, if you don't quit, you can't fail. And that's what I wanted to portray through the Unlucky Sperm Club.
If someone's listening now that tends to live in their circumstances and excuses, what would you suggest is the first step to get them in the habit of making those right choices?
Well, the first step is to realize you are in charge. You're in charge of your life. And I wholeheartedly believe 99.99% that we are exactly where we choose to be. You choose to be where you're at. And if you get to choose where you're at right now, guess what? You get to choose where you're going to go, and by making different choices. It's a lot like getting a hand of poker dealt to you. You get 5 cards or 7 cards, and you look at your hand. You don't have to keep that hand. You get to discard it and get some different cards. And and the way to do that in life is to start making different choices. If you don't like the hand that you've been dealt, start making different choices. Make some choices that are going to get you to where you want to go. Um, and when you realize that, holy cow, you know what? I can determine the direction of my life through my choices. You'll start understanding how important choices are. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. I think a lot of people think, I'm going to choose, whatever it is, with their health or with their wealth or with their relationships. They don't understand how powerful, choices can be. And, I talk about this in my book. One choice can change the direction of your life. And, when you
Mhm.
realize that, it's not going to change your life completely,
Yeah.
but one choice can change the direction of it, and then continue to make those type of choices. And eventually you're going to end up to where you want to go.
Nelson, with I Got Smarter and the Unlucky Sperm Club and your other businesses that you're in, what is some satisfaction that you're getting out of this? But also, what are some difficulties?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the difficulties, I told you my story about my family, and, I've got some family that was not happy that I came out with this book. And so now I've got, some of that, which is sad because, that was the last thing that I wanted to happen. Uh, so, I mean, that's kind of sad, but I don't regret doing the book
Is
because,
there anyone that was upset or disheartened, but then maybe after just watching you thrive, reading the book, they kind of turned and maybe warmed up to the whole idea and what good it's bringing?
yeah, I mean, I think there's some of those, but there are definitely still, that handful of people. I mean, my mom had 15 brothers and sisters. That's about 150 cousins. So, a handful of them are kind of uh, not happy that the book came out. But
Mhm.
on the satisfaction side of it, and you know what, when you're dealing with haters, you're on the right path, because if you have no haters, nobody's going to hate on somebody that's not doing something, or
Mhm.
feel like you know they're accomplishing something. So, anybody else out there that has haters, you know what, you're headed in the right direction. Keep doing what you're doing. As far as satisfaction, almost every day without exception, I get messages from people who have read the book and who it's changed their lives, and they've received inspiration and motivation. I mean, I was at my son's baseball game, and I have older sons who had played baseball, and this gentleman came up to me and he talked to me, and our sons played baseball 5 years ago together, my older sons. And now I have a younger son playing, and he has a younger son. And he's like, you know what? I read your book, and I remember seeing you and your family, 5 years ago, and just thinking you guys had it all together, that you never had any issues, and you were living, this incredible life. And then I read your book and saw that you and your wife struggled, and you were struggling with your businesses. And it really was, encouraging to me to know that, everybody goes through struggles. And, talking about his wife and how he started to treat his wife better, and
Mhm.
because of what he had read in the book. And, I get messages like that all the time. And that lets me know that by writing this book, it's going to help a lot of people take control of their own lives, inspire them to, do what they need to do to go after their dreams and their goals.
So, as the founder and CEO and as an author and working now, COVID kind of puts a twist on things. But what is a process that you go through each week in the work that you're doing?
Yeah, COVID threw us for a curveball. I mean, we have a company called 6 Months to Success, which uses an app, but they meet in person in groups, and they had a goal guide over them that would help people stay accountable. But with COVID, meeting in groups was not functional. So we developed the I Got Smarter app, which allows you to work virtually uh, with a success partner to help you stay accountable to do what you said that you would do. So yeah, I mean, but that's the way every goal is. You're always going to get those hurdles, and you have two choices when you hit a hurdle in life. You either can stop, or you have to grow so that you can get over that hurdle. And that's one of the things that I think one of my superpowers is, when I hit a hurdle, man, I just want to figure out how to get over it and keep going. And I don't want to stop once I determine that I want to do something. I just want to keep going and accomplishing it. And that's what the program I Got Smarter does for people. It helps them to do that through the tools, the knowledge, and the support.
So, as you go through your week, are you finding yourself on Zoom calls? Are you writing more? Maybe some of these little intermediate goals that you might even have for a week.
Yeah, I mean, right now, my goals include getting my book out there to tell my story and kind of expose my story and the I Got Smarter app. And then it's to grow the app and to get that as many people as I can expose to the app so that they can use it to better their lives. And so we're just working on doing whatever we can to do those two things right now. We're not coaches. We're using this app for people to use our program and use the app to achieve their own goals. So we're just spreading the word on that through the book, through podcasts like this, and then through our social media channels and everything that we do there.
On the personal development side, what is a skill that you're working on now, especially as a businessman?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been in physical businesses and haven't, kind of dwelled into the digital area. So
Mhm,
this app is all new to me, and I never had any social media until I started this business. So I'm trying to figure that out. And
mhm,
I was always the type of guy that was happy to be in the background with all of my businesses, and now I'm building a personal brand, and it's the total opposite. So yeah, this venture of I Got Smarter and being an author is, 180-degree turn from what my other businesses were. And it's challenging,
mhm.
but it's also inspiring and motivating.
And that someone could think, "Oh, well, look, he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's new." But this is inspirational in that the content you have the knowledge, the experience with. The technology side is something new, but it's also new for all of us, right? The
Yeah.
idea of, these apps and stuff that have just been coming out over the last decade, and it shows your determination to master it and help provide your content to people in an easier, more effective way.
Yeah, and I mean, the one thing is I've used the strategies, the philosophies,
Mhm.
and the techniques in I Got Smarter for the last 25 years.
Yeah,
It's not something that I've pulled out of a book
yeah.
or pulled offline. These are things that I've used, things that work, things that didn't work, and it's the program that I came up with to give everybody the absolute best possibility of actually uh, following through with their goals. Because the one thing that we do realize is we don't have a knowledge problem. I mean, people know what they need to do to accomplish their goals for the most part. We have an execution problem. We just don't do what we know we need to do. And that's what I Got Smarter is doing. And as far as the technology side, I still don't know the technology side. I have people on my team that know
Mhm,
that and help with that. So I mean, that's another thing. When you go into business, you don't have to be good at everything.
mhm.
And I mean, I learned that early on in business. I've surrounded myself with people who make up for my weaknesses. And, I focus on the things that I do really well. And the things that I don't do really well, I get people on my team that do those things very well. And, business is never a one-man band. It's a group of people. It's a team of people who all have that same, vision and that same goal.
How are you staying productive? You're busy, right? You can make yourself busier if you choose to be, but what's getting your feet off the bed, onto the floor, and staying productive in your day?
Well, I mean, I got to plug my app. I Got Smarter. I mean, one of the things that we do in the program is we have a morning ritual, and that morning ritual plans out through the app our entire day and has us focusing on the things that are really going to move our goals forward. And we're talking about gratitude every morning, and we're
Mhm,
talking about self-help philosophies and strategies found in our program every morning through the app. We're reviewing our goals every day through the app. And then every day we set, what things need to be accomplished in order to get closer to achieving that goal. So at the end of your morning ritual, which only takes, 5 to 10 minutes at the most, when you're done with your morning ritual in the I Got Smarter app, your entire day is planned out. It self
mhm.
populates. And now all you have to do is start checking off boxes on your task list. And at the end of the day, we have another ritual that's called our evening ritual, and that goes into reflecting upon, how was our day, because our choices matter, right? So we're reflecting upon what type of choices we made, what we did, We're figuring out what we need to do the next day. So it's really just living life with purpose and knowing every single day what needs to be done, because most people fail at their goals. The time that they fail at their goals is that they don't have that clear vision of what needs to happen next.
Mhm.
And with the I Got Smarter app, you always know what needs to happen next. I mean, we break these big goals down into what we call 4-week sprints, and then we break those 4-week sprints down into milestones. So there's always that sense of urgency of what you have to do next.
No, I think it's a great idea, especially as you go through it and give an idea of waking up in the morning. Here are your goals set for your morning. Here are your afternoon. Here's your week. Here are your next. Here's your month, and that's a great. I mean, it's a no-brainer. So, kudos to you for coming up with it. What about a tip for people knowing that you at 9 were working on a garbage truck and also had a couple of different jobs? So there's people who just get into work for the first time, and there's other people who change their career. Do you have a tip for people to encourage them in starting work or not being afraid to switch over if that's for them?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, start now and start where you're at. I mean, that's the problem is most people just never start. They get inspired, they get motivated, but then they want, all the traffic lights to turn green before they head off on their journey to fulfill their goals. And success is a lot like walking through fog. I mean, as we stand there, we can't see the entire landscape, but as you continue to take step after step after step by actually doing something, that landscape starts to open up and you start to realize, all the things that you need to do. But if you just stay put, waiting for that fog to lift or waiting for all the traffic lights to turn green, you're going to be standing there and you're going to find yourself there in 10 years and you're going to be regretting that you never took action on your dreams and your goals. So do it now, start where you're at, and move forward.
Thinking of moving forward, but also looking back at mistakes that we have made. Is there one in business that you made that lesson has brought you forward and you're looking at that as you make these decisions?
Yeah, I mean, I owned a chain of children's daycare centers in Las Vegas, and I unknowingly hired a child molester to run one of them, and it went against my gut, but I kind of fell to peer pressure of my regional manager, uh, and fortunate it almost took us down, but fortunately, and I talk about this in my book, The Unlucky
Mhm,
Sperm Club, but you know. I don't want to give the ending away, but
mhm.
you're always going to make those mistakes. And again, uh, if you don't quit, you'll get through it and just keep working at it. But nobody, it's only a failure after you quit. But if you just
Mhm.
keep getting up, I mean, if you fall 100 times, get up 101 times and keep striving, because the only time that you can fail at a goal is if you quit.
Speaking of striving, and what character trait have you found to be most essential? Obviously, with mistakes or having a circumstance like that, you can see people a little bit better of who they are, experiences through work. But what is a character trait that you found to be essential in the workplace?
Uh, you know, for success, I think having a long-term perspective, understanding that today is not the end all, and understanding that it's a process and that you're not who today is not who you're always going to be,
Mhm.
and understanding that you're going to get better. But to have patience and believe in the process and understand that you will eventually reap what you sow. Um, I think that's one of the things that kind of keeps me going and, keeps me inspired when things look really bleak. Understanding that, eventually I'm going to figure this out. Eventually I'm going to get it to where I need to be, or I'll eventually pivot and figure out something else. But just keep going.
You've mentioned your degrees that you've had or that you have. Where is education, but also where's exercise in your personal development goals and how important are they for people?
I mean, I would, I was happy to get my college degree.
Hmm.
Uh, but I mean, if I had to choose between understanding personal development and choosing between that and a degree, I would take personal development
Hmm.
every time, because you're becoming that better version of yourself. I mean, you get a degree and you're becoming a better version of yourself, but then that degree kind of stops. And as quick as the world's changing now, geez, the degree seems to be outdated the minute that they hand it to you. But you know growing and becoming that better version of yourself, that is a process that never should stop. And we talked about that. I mean, we should always be striving to grow and learn and become that best version of ourselves.
What about exercising for you? Is this something part of your regimen?
Oh yeah. I work out 5 days a week. I love to hike. I love to be active. I love to bike. But yeah, I mean, health is wealth. If you've ever gone through a health crisis, you know that nothing else is important when you're going through that crisis. So I think we should all put that, health at the top of our priority list, and focus on that and make sure that you're always striving to be healthy.
You've mentioned your shorter term goals of promoting I Got Smarter as well as your book, Unlucky Sperm Club. But do you have an overarching goal for whether it's your company, your business, your enterprise?
I mean, my biggest goal in life is, I've set a goal to be married to my wife for 50 years. I want to celebrate my 50th wedding anniversary with her. And we just celebrated our 25th. So I'm halfway there.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And so, I mean, there's a lot to go into that. I mean, one is being healthy enough to live that long, and doing all the things to make her want to be with me for that long. But yeah, I mean, family and my relationship with my wife are uh, number one on my priorities, and I could accomplish a lot of things business wise or financial wise, but if I failed at that goal, I don't know if everything else that I did could even come close to making up for it.
It's hard, isn't it, Nelson? I was speaking to someone recently, and well, it was actually the guy who retired, and he said, "What I regret the most is not spending enough time with my wife and my kids because I was so busy doing this thing for them, but to the neglect of them." And he
Yeah.
said, but now he's making up for it, but he's saying to us, don't do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Spend
And
that important time.
I think everybody who's at that age says that.
Hmm.
And yet, I think when we're young and we want to go out and take on the world and succeed in business and our careers, we kind of lose sight of that. And I don't fully believe that your life always has to be balanced. I know there's some people that believe that you always got to have that balance. There's some times in your life where you're going to have to pay a little more attention to your business,
Hmm.
especially when you're starting off, and you got to keep the lights turned on. But then there's other times where you're going to have to pay some more attention to some of the relationships in your life. And I think having that balance there, but really setting your goals and understanding what your goals are, and then holding true to them. So if you're going to say to yourself, what, my relationship and my family is my top priority, well, then you got to act like that. You can't just
Hmm.
say that. It can't just be lip service. And or if your business is your top priority, or making $1 million, whatever your priority is, you just have to stick with that, and hold true to what you're saying.
It's funny, I know here I'm in South Korea, and there's lots of families who have the father stay here and send their families to America or Canada, and they stay there for years. But then people look at that and say, "What are you doing? You're putting your career first." No, they're really putting their family first and giving them a different life, but it doesn't look the same for everyone.
Sure. Yeah. No. And eh, kudos to those guys who are willing to do that. That's a huge sacrifice.
Yeah,
And
it is.
yeah.
Is there anything about you that people may not understand while knowing this, they would have a better appreciation of the work that you're doing?
I mean, as I said here, I've been fortunate enough to exit businesses, and I have enough passive income to never have to work again, as long as everything goes well. I'm doing this because I want to change the world, one person and one inspiring goal at a time. And I know the power of that. And, I know that goals can, the way that I want to change the world is by changing one person's world. And that one person, you know, has the power to change the entire world. And if you change enough people's world, it's going to have that domino effect to make a better world to live in. And that's what I want to do. I mean, I've come from, horrible situation to living a life I couldn't have even imagined. And I know there are so many other people out there that if they had the right tools, the right knowledge, the right support, they could make just as drastic transformation with their life as I did. And I just hate to see all this wasted potential out there of people.
Mm.
And I just want to help anybody who wants to, you know, change their life and really start living the life of their dreams.
It's interesting you say wasted potential. We look at athletes who get lots and kind of wasted whatever they do, and we're easy to judge them for it, but a lot of us waste our own potential. We may not be a professional athlete and we might not have this big contract, but day by day, we're wasting this one time. But the talents and skills that we have to use to put forward to help others, to help ourselves.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I think we all owe it to the world to reach as much of that potential as we possibly can.
With the adversity that you've obviously faced growing up, just the bedrock of your story, uh, coming into the world, but also thinking of other adversity. You mentioned marriage difficulties, just there's probably business difficulties as well. Do you have encouragement for other people who are facing similar or even different adversities?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the only way you can fail is if you quit. And I mean, with my marriage, we wanted to quit several times. It felt like it would be easier to quit,
Hmm.
and but we both had the same goal. We wanted to have a family, and we wanted our marriage to work, and we just kept going at it. And there were days where we couldn't see it ever working, but then eventually you build up that momentum and you get through those tough times. I mean, if you're the saying, if you're going through hell, just keep going. And a lot of times that's really what you need to do. I mean, if you're having a bad day, a bad week, something bad in your business, just keep going. Don't give up. And again, in my book I talk about a few of these things. And the only reason that I'm sitting here talking to you is because I kept going.
Hmm.
And I could have quit, and I would have lived a drastically different life. I mean, that's one of the things. I don't have a lot of fear in my life. I don't give it much heed because I know most of it, all of it exists in your mind. But the one thing that scares me to death is if I wouldn't have moved forward with that
Mm.
first goal of becoming the first college graduate in my family, like I would have forfeited this life that I'm living. And I think we all are like that. I mean, I think we all have that different version of our lives. I mean, there's two versions of our lives, right? The one we're living and the one we're capable of living. And it
Mhm.
scares me to death that I could have forfeited this by not being brave enough to go after that and not being determined enough to keep going when things got hard, because they did get hard.
Yeah, you are an inspiration. And I encourage people to get the book, get the app. I got smarter. Unlucky sperm count. Nelson, how can people reach you besides going to Amazon to get the book, finding I Got Smarter? What are other ways that people can get in contact with you?
Yeah, you can go to nelsontressler.com, and everything's there. The book's there, but as you mentioned, the book is on Amazon, and it's on Audible. I love Audible. I mean, it's
Mhm.
one of the most rewarding things in my life is that I actually get to listen to my own book in Audible. I've listened to thousands of books, but that's been cool. And then I Got Smarter is on all the app stores. It's on Apple and it's on Android, so you can go there and download it. And right now we're giving away 30 free days to on the app, so people can try it out and make sure it's a good fit for them. And then it's only $9.99 after that per month.
Nelson Tressler, founder, CEO of IGOTSMARTER, and author of Unlucky Sperm Club. I appreciate the time you've given me here today, and I appreciate the work that you do.
Yeah, I appreciate. Thanks for having me on, Brian.
Thank you for watching this episode. Please subscribe, like, share, hit the notification, comment, do all that is necessary so that I know that this is encouragement to you, that it's a valuable resource, and it helps me to keep going. Maybe one day it'll pay the bills. I don't know. But I hope it's an encouragement and a good resource for you. I'm Brian V, and this is Why We Work.